if I've got a message out there for any actor, definitely go for a showreel. You don't know what you're capable of unless you try.
Hi everyone and welcome, it's Lauren here.
It's Raymond here.
And in this episode, we explore a scene that we did with Tarek Jabado as part of his acting showreel we shot recently for him. Before we jump into the interview, let's have a look at the scene. Hey Tarek, welcome to this episode. It's a pleasure to have you here, man. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to chat to you again, both.
Likewise, man. It's always a pleasure to see you, and I'm very excited to delve into this scene for today's episode, which is the isolation scene. It was a scene that Ray and I were both so incredibly proud of. Everyone involved really did 110%, and we ended up with what I think is an amazing scene for you. I'm sure you agree.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. When I watched it back, I'm like, wow, this is so powerful. Just really well done.
I think we started with a very different idea for the scene, and through pre-production, it really evolved, but then on set, it evolved so much more. And it was originally going to be a very kind of stylistic shoot or a very stylistic scene in a very different way. But what we ended up with, thanks to Ray and the cutting that he did in post-production, really brought the scene to life. What was it like seeing yourself in such an emotive, such a powerful scene for the first time? Because if I'm correct, you haven't been in a scene like that before. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, no, I've not been in a scene like that where I'm like the main character or even a supporting character. So watching myself back, like watching the body language, my face, everything, it was absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it.
Was there a part to that scene that really stood out to you?
The part that stood out for me the most was towards the end, like when I'm cutting into the plate and I just sort of stop. And I'm like, stop eating, I stop chewing, and the camera is just slowly panning back. it's such a powerfully emotional part there, because it really adds depth to all of the story previous to it. It's just, wow, like blew me away.
Wonderful, man.
With the isolation scene, one thing I would like to ask is that what would be your biggest takeaway from, in terms of the character development itself, when you're preparing the character?
I guess for that scene, I took some of my own personal experiences into mind, like how I'd recently gone through some marriage separation, you know, the heartache, the loneliness, you know, when you get into a part of your life where you just feel like giving up, you know, it's all become too hard. I just channeled that emotion, especially when I was in the bed and lying on the pillow. And initially it was actually the pillow that irritated my eye, which is what caused the tear to roll down my face. And when you both asked me to do it again, I'm like, oh shit, now what am I gonna do? So I just like remembered the saddest moment between like my previous partner and I, and it helped me to be able to, you know, get upset again and recreate that same scene over and over.
I remember being in the room with you, in the bedroom with you, I was kind of nestled in the doorway and you were laying on the bed, and that moment where the tear and the emotion started to really flow, I remember just being captivated and drawn into that moment. And then I looked over to Ray, who was in another room through a doorway that I could see watching the monitor. I kind of just looked at him and his face was exactly the same. He was just enthralled in this shot. And then he kind of looked up at me at the same time. And we had this moment where we just looked at each other and thought, yeah, Tarek's got this. This is going to be outstanding. And there was this whole unspoken dialogue between Ray and I in that moment. And then when we got into post-production, when we actually sat down and watched all the footage and we started to see the first kind of rough cuts come through once Ray had done an assembly and started cutting the scene, it was very clear very early on that this was going to be a scene that we were going to be proud to have really made, but also a scene that was really going to showcase you and your talent. And I think collectively as a whole, we all did a really, really great job at pulling off what is quite a powerfully emotive scene.
It was actually really interesting. Like I remember you asked me to move the little plushie onto the floor, and I kind of wondered why you did that. But now when I watch it back, I'm like, so that's why he asked me to do that.
So it's funny that you then talk about, you know, on set in that moment, you know, an actor really only has some understanding of the overall picture and the vision because you're one person in the overall process. When it all gets cut together, you see how everything kind of flows together in that final edit and the final process. What was that like for you, kind of having been on set, experienced acting in it, but then seeing it from the lens or from the audience's point of view for the first time?
It definitely put it into a different perspective, because when I was on set, there were a lot of times when I wondered, why is Lauren shooting this, or why is he recording that? And like when it cuts away to the shot of all the books on my nightstand, it just kind of really adds to the depth of the story as to this guy is lonely, or obviously, you know, he's been with somebody before and now he's really struggling. There's a lot of self-help books on his nightstand. It just really adds depth to the story without even saying anything. And I just felt that was actually really powerful and wonderful, that you can tell a story without even saying anything. And it blew me away as to how well you can tell a story without even uttering a word.
So what was it like for you being on set, being the actor, the lead, the hero in all of those scenes? What did that do for you as an actor, or even just as an individual early on in your acting career?
Seeing myself in all of the scenes, and especially, you know, isolation scene, seeing myself in all those different roles, it was definitely interesting to see what I could actually do. It was very powerful. Like, I didn't think I could do it, but then actually seeing myself having done it, like, wow, I've got the ability to do this. I've got the skills. and the capabilities. So I need to start believing in myself more, that I've got this. And it's a level of confidence that's not arrogant, that I'm humble and I know that I can do it. I mean, working with both yourself and Raymond Lauren was absolutely amazing, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Tarek, thank you so much for providing your feedback as well as your insight into your experience, especially for this scene that you've done with us. Really proud of you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much, Tarek, for taking the time to be with us today and share a little bit of your journey through the isolation scene. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and feelings.